So I'm Regina, I work for Shell, which I'm really happy to. Today I will be talking about Shell renewable natural gas. When I talk about renewable natural gas, that's just a fancy word for green gas, which is upgraded biogas, right? So that we're all on the same page. I just tested it, yeah. So I want to talk about just a couple slides on the Shell ambition. Of course, when we talk about Shell, we always talk about our ambition. A little bit on biofuel, so what is biogas and how does it work? Also, what is the potential and what are the challenges, right? So, and of course, why do we focus on it? So, the Shell ambition. So, as you all know, and also because of the recent events in the court, right? We are really strongly challenged by meeting, getting to zero emissions in 2050. And we do that in threefold. So because we provide, of course, energy, we're going to lower our energy and our carbons in that way. How we use our energy, we're going to change that. And also we change what we deliver to our customers, right? So because we're one of the biggest companies in the world and we deliver a lot of energy to industry, transport, etc. So how do we achieve this? So you can be more efficient, right? So in terms of how you get energy out of the ground, in the terms of the choice of the energy, you can be far more efficient. But I'm more in a second row. So I'm more focused on the biofuel. So that's really the low carbon fuel, right? So the low carbon energy. So we believe in hydrogen, and we believe in biofuels, and we believe in electricity and steam, which is also can, of course, be produced by biomethane and hydrogen. And the third option is, of course, then capturing carbon, which is also a good solution, but also controversial in this current climate. Excuse me. So, yeah, so I stole this slide from the New Energy Coalition. Maybe some of you know this group, which does a lot of work on energy, sustainable energy in the Netherlands and research. So this is just explaining how biogas works. So maybe some of you already know, but it's basically you take a waste stream, a product that no one wants anymore, but now it's getting actually really popular. But you digest it, right, via anaerobic digestion. That's the technology we use in Shell. That's basically what your body does when you eat food and you know, at some point it gets out again. But also when you leave your garbage outside, maybe when it's 40 or 50 degrees, you know, and you get a typical smell, but that's also actually anaerobic digestion. When you then upgrade it to green gas, you take out things like ammonium sulfate, you take out CO2, and then you have green gas, right? And of that green gas, we put it in a liquefaction unit, and then you can produce bioenergy. And bioenergy can be used indeed for marine and trucks to decarbonize, right? And I think, you know, I'm preaching for my own choir, but still, you know, this is the greatest solution, I think, in history. Where did I just put my thing? I'm so chaotic sometimes, sorry. Okay, yeah, thank you. So this is how it works. So why biogas, right? So we already talked it a little bit. It's easy to use instead of the conventional diesel engine, especially in trucks, right? It's very financial viable, which is of course also important. And I have another slide that demonstrates that. It really drastically lowers emissions, right? And that's all why we do that, right? Because we're compliant, but we also want to because we need to get to a better climate condition in this world. Also for customers, it's affordable. That's also a very important element. We also experience that with biofuels. You can have really interesting biofuels, but if it's not affordable, no one's going to buy it. It's also, yeah, like we said, products considered as waste are now usable for, you know, creating another product, and that's, I think, amazing, right? That's a circular economy that we all want to contribute to, and yeah, it can be used for transport. I mean, we talk a lot about transport, but it can also be used for heat, right? It can go into the grid, and we can use it for heat. We can use it for electricity, for everything. And also the byproducts, actually. So when you get at the end of the digest process, you get digestate out, right? And the digestate, for example, you can dry and you can create pellets of it, and those pellets can be used on the land again, right? For getting your crops and everything growing. So that's also good. So what is the potential? I'm going just a little bit quick because I see my time is going up. So if you look at look especially at the right slide, I'm looking here because it's a little bit small. But as you see, what is expected of biogas and bioenergy is really growing, right? This is also very much pushed by the European Union, but also really by the demand because, you know, in the end, trucks only have so many options, right? Because, yeah, EV is interesting, hydrogen, yeah, but bioenergy is one of the bigger solutions, right? Shell's really in for the long haul, as we always say, right? So because we, as I already explained, I think we really believe in bioenergy as the alternative for trucks. But also, we also not only invest in biogas, as in the plants, right? Because one of my job, for example, is really developing and building new plants. But we also build on the backside, right? So we really invest in energy sites, depots, so to make it more accessible for the customers. One of our recent projects is Noordzul. Probably some of you heard of it. That's in Amsterdam. Together with Renewi, the waste company, and Noordzul for the technology, we built a bioenergy installation, and much more to follow. Quick on prices, right? So I already said, so this is a graph, CO2 emissions versus fuel price. And as you can see, bioenergy in the middle, so that's interesting in CO2, but also in fuel price view, right? E-energy is even more attractive. Well, we'll see, but that's a little bit more further away for us. Whoa. Challenges, right? So this is the last slide, and I think I'm really on time. So this is not a fancy slide, but this is really an honest slide, right? Because I'm so enthusiastic about biogas and bioenergy, but at the same time, sometimes I almost cry myself to sleep because it's really difficult to realize, right? Especially in the Netherlands. Why? I mean, some of the challenges are already mentioned, but the regulation per country is super different. So even if I want to build a biogas plant nearby the border of Germany, it already creates complications, right? Am I going to go put it in the grid? Am I going to make it bioenergy? Can I then transport it? What can I do with the byproducts? Legislation is so difficult. It was already mentioned before, NOx, like the nitrogen emissions. I've seen a lot of projects, failing because of nitrogen permits. Nitrogen is a big issue in the whole of Netherlands, also with the housing, we all know this. But if we want to become more sustainable, but we're stopped by nitrogen, emissions, even if you have the depositions, it feels very controversial. But permit duration in general, right? I mean, you have to go to the court, the Raad van State, the provincial, whatever. Then you have to go to the higher court. Before you have permits in place, it takes years and years. And for investors, it's not always that interesting. Of course, now we have the current gas prices, but hopefully this is a current situation because of Ukraine. But the gas prices really makes it that everyone wants to go into gas and even more into green gas, which really puts the competition very high, which is not that bad, but it does affect also the feedstock prices. And you need three things for biogas. You need feedstock, you need land, and you need permits. And if feedstock is very high in demand, it only means that another biogas plant is not getting that feedstock, right? So, or it's being exported for better prices. So because everything is now almost on spot pricing, so it's not really good for long-term investment. Again, the amount of players, we see that equity players are, also increasingly investing in the sustainable market. So not only in biogas, but also in hydrogen, etc. That's me. I know I did it on purpose. Yeah, I know. So the amount of players, right? So I mean, if even private equity players are gonna, intervene and they are willing to make, to take a higher risk, it's also complicated. And there are a lot of self-made biogas plants. I'm a really big fan of self-made people, self-made companies, but the quality of the plants is not always great, right? Because they're like very entrepreneurial farmers that, thought, what can I do with my manure? If I can add some, waste from my land, I can make maybe biogas out of it. But if you want to, take those plants, acquire those plants, you have to basically, crush them down and build them all over again because they're not really safe for high production. And last but not least, like the market for byproducts. So there's also really strict rules on, for example, digestate, right? So what goes in, and what comes out, it's all determined by different laws. So the end-to-end process is challenging, but still, really fun. And that's why I put in bold, like, however, even considering these challenges, like we still really believe in Shell that biogas, green gas, whatever you want to call it, bioenergy is really the way forward, and it's going to solve partly of the problem we are all facing. So thank you.